Get ready for all the craziness of small business. It's exactly that craziness that makes it exciting and totally unbelievable. Small Business Radio is now on the air with your host, Barry Moltz.
Well, thanks for joining this week's radio show. Remember, this is the final word in small business. For those keeping track, this is now incredibly show number 569. This episode is provided by Nextiva, the all-in-one communications platform for your small business. It's also sponsored by LinkedIn, the place to generate leads, traffic, and build your brand awareness. For a free $100 credit to launch your campaign, go to www.linkedin.com/SBR. It's also sponsored by eFile4Biz, the easiest way to electronically process, print, and mail your 1099s and W-2s for your business. Go to www.efile4biz.com. We're also sponsored by vCita, all you need to run your business in one software application. Try it for free at www.vcita.com. That's VCITA.com, and use Barry10 for an exclusive discount. We're also sponsored by Blue Summit Supplies. Get your W-2s and 1099 tax forms that your business is required to file by January 31st at bluesummitSupplies.com/SBR and use code SBR10 at checkout to save 10% on your entire order. Well, in the world of small business, you're going to meet a lot of great people out there that are really going to help you out. But you're also going to meet a lot of people that are really going to suck. Here to help us how to deal with those people that suck is Michael Brenner, who's been recognized as Forbes' top CMO influencer, a top business keynote speaker by the Huffington Post, and a top motivational speaker by Entrepreneur Magazine. He's got a new book out. It's called Mean People Suck: How Empathy Leads to Bigger Profits and Better Life. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hi, Barry. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so glad that someone wrote a book about this, because I think that mean people do suck. And I keep thinking that to folks who are really great innovators, leading great companies like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, do they have to be mean people?
No, they don't. And that's really the, one of the things that led me to write this book is there's some surprising counterintuitive research out there. Actually, almost the weight of all the research I found shows that organizations and leaders and cultures that are focused more on empathy, more on caring, and less about creating an environment of fear are actually more successful. And I think sometimes that you look at Steve Jobs or you look at other influential, inspiring leaders, and we think, they ruled with a heavy hand. And actually, if you dive into it, what we find is a lot of those leaders, there's a myth of kind of cult of personality about those folks. They actually created cultures where they showed some concern, some care, whether it's for their customers or for their employees or whatever, but they actually weren't the mean people we thought they were. And so sometimes I think we have to dig a little bit deeper into some of those myths. But the fact is that cultures, organizations that are built around empathy and concern for other people are more effective and successful over time.
Yeah, and I always say, just because, I do believe, because I know enough people that have worked for Steve Jobs, as one of my friends says, I left Apple for the second time when he threw a coffee pot at my head. I think Steve Jobs was mean, right? But as you said, just because Steve Jobs was able to create a successful organization by being mean, or Elon Musk by being, we don't know, he's just very compulsive, it doesn't mean that you can do it in your organization. But the old time thing is that in order to get people to do stuff, you got to be mean. You got to scream, you got to yell. But what you're saying in your book is that's just not true.
Yeah, it's a myth, and that's why I said we hear these stories, and I'll give you Steve Jobs as an example. Steve actually owned built two companies in his life. We all know Apple, but we forget about Pixar.
Right. And
Pixar, their founder, co-founder, wrote an amazing book, one of my favorites, called Creativity Inc., where they talk about the secret of their success was a culture of openness, and where they had these these meetings where they would talk about the movies that they were trying to produce. And anybody from the CEO down to the janitor could provide an opinion. So, even in those myths of personality around Steve Jobs, yeah, sure, maybe he threw coffee pots at people, but the fact is that he built a company that had an entire, sort of culture of empathy built right into it, and it was the reason for their success. So, that's one simple thing. Another stat that I love to use is a good friend of mine, Jim Stengel, who was the former CMO at Procter & Gamble, wrote a book called Grow, where he looked at companies that were built on some sort of a purpose or values, where they weren't just putting profits over people, they were putting people over profits. Those companies were 400% more successful based on their stock price. And so yeah, we hear these anecdotal stories about mean leaders, but the simple fact is that companies that are built on cultures of acceptance and diversity and inclusion and concern for other people or the environment or whatever it is, concern for others and not just, leadership worship, they're more successful. So if you want to build a successful company, have a little bit of concern for the people around you.
It's interesting because now that I think back on it, and of course we'll never know, is maybe Steve Jobs was like that because he didn't want there to be leadership worship, right? Because certainly Apple is a company built on concern for other people and diversity and inclusion and those kinds of things.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you look at their head of design. I mean, he's a famous person in his own right, and their whole company was built on obsession over customer, the utilization and amazing customer experiences. So, yeah, Steve maybe was obsessed with and sort of forceful in making that an important point. But that's what Apple was. It was a company built around providing an amazing technical customer experience.
So you talk about in your bio that you've had 53 jobs in your life. So you must have seen your fair share of mean people.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the story is I was somebody sat down with me for an interview, and they were like, "Hey, you've been a successful executive," and for the first time, I actually never had considered myself successful. I still feel like I have a lot to accomplish, and she asked me why, and I gave her an answer, but afterwards was thinking about it, and I started thinking, well, how many jobs have I actually had? And I counted them up, and I thought, a lot of the reason I've had so many, and a lot of them were within one company. I spent 9 years at one company, 7 years at another. I mean, I've had some long stints, but many jobs within. And what I found was that in most cases, I liked the company or I liked the work, but I just hated my boss. Mm-hmm. And, I think a lot of the reason for the 53 jobs is I left my boss and in some cases gave up too soon. I think slowly over the course of my career, learned how to deal with what I looked back and considered some mean people. One great example, I had a boss who I really didn't like, and we're now friends. And what happened was, I learned how to deal with him. We were both fathers. We were both, parents of a couple of kids. And once I got to know him as a person, once I got to understand what he really wanted to accomplish, and once I took the courage to stick up for myself and let him know, hey, if you want something accomplished, you've hired me to do that job, and I'm good at doing that job, so let me do it. We became, we had a great working environment, and we're friends to this day.
It's so interesting you said that you left your boss. I remember when I left IBM in 1990, I actually did leave my boss. And I always tell a joke when I'm speaking that, this guy used to have sales contests where first prize was lunch with him. And I always said, oh, what's second prize? 2 lunches with you. And I realized that I didn't just leave IBM, I really left him. So based on your experience, Michael, how do you deal with mean people that suck at work instead of just, getting out of the situation? Because that's not always the solution, and that's not always the right thing to do.
That's right, and it's true. And in fact, the data shows that most people do leave. I think it's something like 60+% of people that leave a job are leaving their boss. It's not the company or the work, which is sad. It means that we have a crisis of leadership in our culture. Simple ways, and I've kind of touched upon this, but the first thing is find out what your boss really wants. If you find out in that conversation that your boss just wants to feed his ego, he or she is a narcissist, then you need to leave. That's step number 5. But the first thing is find out what they really want. Make sure that's clear between the two of you. The second thing, and this is something I did at almost every job I had, is I would interview and meet with the people that were peers of my boss. I would meet with the stakeholders that my boss was supposed to be serving. And sometimes that was customers, which was a lot of fun. But really try to kind of, get a 360-degree view of what your leader really is looking for, what they're trying to accomplish. Then the third is what I mentioned. You have to have that courageous conversation. I call it the cake baking conversation. You want to sit down and have this conversation with your boss where you say, listen, I know you want a cake. You want it to be chocolate. You want chocolate chips with chocolate icing. And guess what? I'm a good chef. I know how to make a really great cake. So let me go bake that cake. You can't ask me for a cake and tell me how to bake it. And so that's the conversation that I think too few of us have. We get into this, kind of victim mentality where we just think our boss is yelling at us and telling us what to do, and we get mad and miserable, and then we leave. So that's kind of the third step, is making sure you have that conversation. The fourth I mentioned as well, get to know them as a person. Try to just, subtly find out, are they mean because they're going through a divorce or they've got, health issues, or they got problems at home. Sometimes when we learn these things, we find that they're just people too. through, and we can understand a little bit more about why they're acting the way they are. And so once you go through those 4 steps, if you still find that your boss is a jerk, then step number 5 is either commit to delivering what they want or leave. And I think at least having a formal systematic process to go through those steps can really help a lot of people.
Is there a difference, Michael, between someone who's mean and someone who's abusive?
Well, yeah, there's a fine line, I guess you could say, and I think abusive behavior should never, ever be tolerated. One of the people I highlight in the book is Satya Nadella from Microsoft,
right,
who in his own memoir and bio talked about how he grew up very sort of in a very challenging situation. He had as a child with actually I think it's 2 children with some developmental disabilities, and it really helped him to learn. He tells the story about how one day he was sitting with his wife and saying, "Why did this happen to us?" But what he realized was it didn't happen to him. It happened to his son, who had a developmental disorder. And it helped him to realize for the first time that it's not just all about him. Nancy Duarte, who's a famous storyteller, her secret to great stories and great professional presentations is always this tip, this understanding that's not about you. And so that's really important. That's what Satya learned, the power of empathy, and he brought that to Microsoft. And one of the things that he tried to do is to say, we won't tolerate abusive conversations. We won't tolerate abusive relationships or behavior in any way, whether it's physical, sexual, verbal, of any kind. So he started to weed those kinds of leaders out who, in many cases, were we're almost even encouraged and promoted. There's a number of CEOs that I've talked to who have started this process of trying to actually hire, fire, and promote based on the values of the people that they want. You want people that care about their team, leaders that put the customer first. Those are the kinds of behaviors you want. We don't necessarily need smart jerks, as one of the CEOs I talked to refers to them as. Every organization has them. We need to stop hiring them. We need to stop promoting them.
I'm so glad you focus on the word empathy, because I believe in any kind of communication, especially between people that work inside a company, if you can just show empathy, if you can just show that, hey, you're listening to what the other person's saying, that really goes a long way to building relationships.
Yeah, I mean, empathy really is the key. It's kind of, like if we're not going to be mean, then what are we going to be? Because I think the problem is there's, some folks that just believe that's what a leader should do. A leader should be, the sergeant, the drill sergeant, in boot camp that's screaming at people. And companies are not the military. And we need our teams to be able to think as thinking organisms or organizations, and really start to come together. And that starts with empathy. And so empathy is, it's kind of a touchy-feely word that some people, kind of resist sometimes, but it really just means trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes, trying to understand what they're going through. If you're a leader, your job is not to tell people what to do. Your job is to help empower and encourage, the power and the thinking and the experience of the teams that you're leading.
It's interesting to me because I think that as a manager that's having experience, it's easy to be mean, it's easy to threaten, it's easy to yell, it's easy to swear. To do the other thing, to show empathy, to me, that takes more time, and that's a lot more difficult. Mm-hmm. I found it to be pretty simple. And, one of the things, I'll give you an example. I've always hated 2 things in big companies that I worked for, annual performance reviews and the quote-unquote one-on-one. My manager would always say, I want you to set up a 30-minute one-on-one so you can tell me all the things that you're working on. And I always thought that, how ridiculous is this, right? Like, first of all, I perform all year, not just once. Why are we talking about my performance once? And second, why do I need to spend 30 minutes of my valuable time telling you what I'm doing? I could spend that time maybe getting your advice or learning, some of your experiences. So as a leader, when I became a leader, because of that anger and frustration with those processes, I came up with a simple conversation. First of all, it wasn't formally scheduled. I would just always try to check in with the teams that I led, regularly, but not formally. And I did doing 3 things. 1, how are you doing? Check in. How are things going? Just, personally, how are things going? Do you like your job? Are you getting what you need? So that's number 1. How are you doing? Number 2, how am I doing?
And so it reverses the whole concept of, as a leader, I'm supposed to tell you what to do. And it says, you know what, as a leader, I'm here to support you. And how am I doing in supporting you? And then question number 3 is, what can I do to help you? And it's back to this cake, right? Like, I need a chocolate cake, but you're the one who's going to bake it. So how can I help you? How am I doing in supporting what you need? Do you need a certain ingredient to make this a great cake? That's what a leader's job is. And so it's very simple. Just ask those 3 questions. Just check in with your team. Find out how they're doing. Find out how you're doing, and find out what you need to do to help them.
One thing you talk about in the book, Mean People Suck, is that you have to put some emotion into it. And sometimes for a lot of folks, this seems to be counterintuitive, because you hear a lot in small business, Michael, that, it's not personal. And I reject that, because I really think it is personal. And you've got to put some emotion into it, because it's your life's work.
Exactly. The first time somebody said that to me, I was actually really young. It was not my first manager, but it was like my 3rd or 4th, and I had a number in my first couple of years. But I remember just saying to him, like, well, I'm a person, so how can it not be personal if you're attacking me and the things that I'm doing? Here's what it comes down to. I've spent 2 chapters in the book talking about storytelling, and the reason I talk about this is it's a skill that so many leaders lack, so many professionals lack, and the reason stories are effective ways of communicating information is because of the emotion. It's the emotion that we attach to. We love Star Wars because we fell in love maybe with Luke or Leia, right? Like we find ourselves attached emotionally to the characters, the heroes of the stories that we love, or we find ourselves, hating and feeling, negatively towards the villains of those stories. But it's the emotion that causes us to love or hate or to really emotionally connect. Organizations need to do the same thing. In Jim's book, Grow, he talks about how companies built on purpose tell the stories of what they believe in. Companies, leaders that are more successful are the ones that are able to connect with their teams and even more so connect with their customers in an emotional way. And the way that they do that is through the stories that they tell. Stories aren't, hey, I'm awesome. Stories are, hey, I understand what you need. I know somebody like you who had the similar problem, and let me tell you how they succeeded. And that's a great story, that many leaders just simply don't know how to tell.
Well, Michael, I appreciate you being on the show. The title of the book is Mean People Suck: How Empathy Leads to Bigger Profits and Better Life. Where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me at meanpeoplesuck.com. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn and Facebook, and look up the book on Amazon. It's something I narrated it myself on Audible as well, and would love any of your audience's feedback on what they think about Mean People Suck.
Michael, thanks so much. It's AM 820 WCPT in Chicago. We'll be right back. Time and place is everything, especially when it comes to marketing. But in today's age of 1 million messages per minute and not enough hours in a day, how do you really catch people's attention? Fortunately, there's a simple way. LinkedIn can help you speak to the right professionals at the right time. With over 62 million decision makers on LinkedIn, you're able to connect with the right business leaders who are relevant to your company. And with LinkedIn ads, you can make sure your messages are getting through to these relevant people. Even small businesses are making the most of LinkedIn ads. They're using LinkedIn to get their voices heard and their messages to resonate with the audience. It's not just about awareness either. LinkedIn ads are driving traffic and engagement, whether that's visits to a landing page, registrations to an event, or downloads of that thought leadership piece. Because with precise targeting, small businesses can speak to the people that matter the most. At the end of the day, LinkedIn ads are helping smaller businesses get big results. Try it for yourself. LinkedIn is offering a free $100 LinkedIn ad credit to launch your first campaign. Simply go to www.linkedin.com/SBR. That's www.linkedin.com/SBR to claim your free $100 ad credit. Terms and conditions apply.
You've already upgraded your cell phone to a smart device, which lets you use the internet to be more productive on the go. But what about your desk phone? Nextiva is a smart business phone system in the cloud. With a simple setup through an internet connection, you can soon have access to your office communications wherever you are. Stay seamlessly connected with clients and stay more mobile than ever before with just one low monthly cost. Give your business more than just a basic desk phone. Visit Nextiva.com or call 800-799-0600 to learn more today. Nextiva. Simplifying your business communications.
Tune in regularly to my show, then you know that I talk to many different businesses across the country, different types of people, different backgrounds, all kinds of industries. But there's one thing that unites all of us: searching that thing known as work-life balance. I get pretty bummed out when a listener tells me that they haven't been home for dinner in a whole month. That's why I'm so excited to introduce you to Visita. Visita does a lot for one little application. It can help you achieve that lifestyle. Visita is that personal assistant on steroids you never had. It syncs your client information, appointments, and payments. Visita sends automated appointments and payment reminders, making sure your clients keep appointments and get paid on time. Visita understands today's consumer, making it easy for them to book an appointment and pay from literally anywhere. A website, Facebook, emails, even your Google My Business profile. It's also compatible with Google, Gmail, iCal, social media, and Square payments. So get your free 14-day trial during which you can explore every single feature. Go to Visita.com. That's VCITA.com. No credit card required, no strings attached, no brainer. And when you're ready to buy, use promo code Barry10 to get 10% off.
Stick around to get your small business unstuck. More of Small Business Radio with Barry Moles, now on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Well, one of the biggest issues very small business owners face is how to keep track of all the things that go on their business. They start out thinking that they are so small they keep track of it informally on a spreadsheet in their head, but this ends up being a big mistake. Here to talk about her experience is Bianca Shelley Robinson, who's the founder of K Consulting, which is a global operational management firm that specializes in business infrastructure solutions. Bianca, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Hi, that's a lot of big words. Tell me what your company does for customers.
So in a nutshell, we help manage your back end, so your operations part. I want you to do what you do best, which is whatever your area of genius is, and I want to help track and manage that from the system to the processes to the people to the customer service to timing your social media and those loose ends. I want to handle that back end of your business.
So where do you start with that when you say their back end? That includes which parts of the business?
So for me, it would be the nucleus of my business, which is my CRM system. I believe that if you manage your CRM system correctly, that your business will run like a Fortune 500 company, even if you are a team of one. And so the first thing that we do is really set up their CRM. And so the CRM system that I use is Visita, and I've been using it for I've been in business for 8 years, so I've used it for 8 years.
Wow.
So it's kind of the brains of my business, and so I put my clients on choose Visita.
So it's interesting to me because I believe that a CRM is the brains of your business, but a lot of people think, well, it's not so important because I can remember all the customers, I can remember what we talked about, I can remember when we called them back. And to me, that's really a big issue. Yeah,
and I think that a lot of people do business old school with the pen and papers and spreadsheets, but you're not as efficient and your operations isn't as in order. And what if something happens to you and you can't come to work that day? I think we think of we are the solopreneur, and so we know everything. But if you know everything, who's going to come in when you're sick, when you want to go on vacation, when you want to operate as a CEO instead of the worker? And so your CRM system will allow you and your team to be able to do that. And so I don't think many people think about that.
So with Visita, what things do you track that are important to your business inside your CRM?
So everything from who I'm actually speaking with, a lot of my clients, we work together for 3 months at a time. And so they might come first quarter and might not need anything in Q4. Well, my team are able to look at that back end of the business of what we talked about, when was their birthday, what's the last file they had, what are those contracts, how much do they pay, what's some estimates, did I send out a campaign to them for their birthday, or did they get that 50% off? Like all of that is kind of housed inside of the feed, and kind of how we track everything.
You know, I love that you said that you can share this among your team because the CRM really becomes the brains where everyone can see what's going on with every single customer. They don't have to call you up and say, well, Bianca, what was the deal with Joe? Where are we at with that? When's the last time we talked to him?
Yes, and that's the thing that I like the most. Is that everyone can be on the same page. Just like if you call to pay your phone bill, you're not talking to the same person that you paid the phone bill to 3 months ago. You're talking to somebody new, but they're able to look at the history and see where you guys left off to better serve you. So the CRM system does that as well. And so that's why I actually love it. That's initially why I got the CRM system, because when I'm in my corporate job, we used a CRM system. It was the focus of the business. So I knew when I started my own business that if I didn't have any other system, I would have to have a CRM system.
One of the big things for a lot of companies when they have a CRM is that people don't keep it up to date. People don't enter things into it. How do you make sure that happens at K Consulting?
So we have checks and balances, and so every client starts off with a checklist, and so they can see the checklist. So as we enter things, I update the checklist, and so they are able to also get a video of me actually doing it. I don't want to do it for you forever. I just want to start you off, and you can maintain it. So everything that I do in the CRM system, I record it, and then you get that actual video so that you can stay up to date once I'm actually finished with you.
So how do you use Visita for billing, invoicing, and payments? Because I think that a lot of small business owners, there's no problem, Bianca, doing the work. When it comes to invoicing them on time or getting paid, they kind of shy away from that for whatever reason.
So Visita has this really cool feature where you can put reminders in to make sure that you send your client the updated invoice on the actual day. And so I schedule out all of my reminders, and then it has this little ding button where you can send it out to the clients and let them know, like, hey, your invoice is due today. And so it's all automatic. You can set up that entire system to be automatic. You only have to do it one time. So that's another cool feature that Visita has for invoices to help you with your business.
And how do you process the payments?
So we can use Stripe, we can use PayPal, we can do ACH, we can also do wire transfer. So they accept all of those.
And what do you do if people don't pay? Does Visita remind you, say, well, here are the people that haven't paid?
Yes, so I have, when I was a team of one and I was looking like I was a team of many, I had my assistant, a.k.a. me, send out a separate email from my assistant account and say, like, hey, your invoice is due today. Do you need us to call you so that we can process that, or how can we help you with that? So I was my assistant for a long time, too, which Visita has the capability to do that.
I thought it was the only person that actually made up other people in their company when you got started, because I did that back, the early 90s.
No, I had a Karen, I had a Dan, and I had a Brittany. Now I really have a Whitney and an Antoine and an Amanda, but I didn't have them. But each one of them had their own separate Visita accounts, which gave the illusion that it was 4 people, and it was really just Bianca setting up the systems correctly.
And I actually had to write it down. I actually made it my own organization chart. Did you have to do that to remind you who was who?
Yes, and what the roles were. So people ask, like, okay, well, what does Brittany do? Brittany does this, this, and this. So I definitely have my script ready.
So what other things do you do with Visita to run your business?
We do email marketing, which I love. We do text message support, which I love that too, because I'm on my phone most of the time. So to get that text message to let me know when my call is, I love that. I also like the fact that you can make different landing pages for different things. Just that you want to have I do a lot of workshops, so I can accept payments from my workshop within Visita. Visita also is my website. I don't even have an actual website anymore. You're able to make Visita your actual website. And so that's another feature that I love, which I've been using for the past 8 years. I don't have an actual website. Visita is my website. So
email marketing, Bianca, is really important because I believe that you got to be there when people are ready to buy. And by sending regular content to people to remind them that you're here, that's a huge part of marketing. Yeah, I believe in a serve sale method, and so you want to give as much as you want to sell. So serving is literally giving them a tip or a trick about you, your business, and how you can help them, which it doesn't have a sale. So I serve on Tuesdays and I sell on Fridays. Most people get paid on the weekend, but on Tuesday it's strictly just a tip of how you can grow your business, your operations, some problems that I had with a client and how we fixed it, some ways that you can actually fix your business. So you can schedule all of those inside of Visita for them to automatically go out. I schedule my emails a quarter at a time. So if you get an email from me next Tuesday, I scheduled that in October. So I have the ability to advance schedule my emails. So I know a lot of us would also like to use text marketing to stay in touch with customers and prospects. Do you have to get special permission for that, like you have to do for email marketing? Yeah, so Visita has this little button that you press when you finally become a customer, and once you click this little box, it says, I'll give this organization permission to email and also to text me. So they have the option to opt in or to opt out, which I like. So I'm just not throwing you in there. You chose to receive this. So they have that feature as well. And do you find that a lot of people are receptive to that? Yes, a lot of people are receptive to it because I give discounts and I give tips and tricks, but you can only get it if you are in that safe space. So people that are not on my email list, that are not in my database, they don't know that I have specials. So when they go to my website, they just see the actual prices. But since people are on my email list and my text message list, they get tips and tricks and discounts. So that's a great incentive as well. So I think they like that. And they've been receptive to it. Most of everyone on my list has received it. No one has really opted out for it, which means that they like the content that I send out. Now, Bianca, I know that what's also important for a lot of service small business owners is really booking their clients because all they can do is sell their time, but then sometimes it's hard to find the optimum time that both of you can meet. How does Visita help you with that?
So I like Visita because you can block out the times where you're not available and then the times that you are. So, for example, for me, I work from 10 to 2, but I go pick up my daughter and my son from school at 2:30. So from 2:30 to 3:30, my schedule is blocked, but then I can take calls from 4 to 6. And so I like that it gives you the ability to put your breaks and schedule those things in as well. But I'm also really clear teaching my clients how to go from one to many. I am a service-based provider, so I trade time for money, but if you diversify your business model, you don't have to be tied to the phone doing calls and sessions. You can do multiple different things to make the same type of money.
You know, it's interesting because I think that, guys, say in the olden days, before you could do this, you constantly go back and forth with a customer. Well, can you meet on this date? Can you meet on this time? Whatever it is. And now the person can actually, you set up the times you're available and they actually can choose that time. So it's a hell of a lot simpler and a lot less frustration.
And they can schedule reoccurring appointments, which I like. As well, if we talk every Thursday at 2 o'clock, we can book that out to have that on our schedule for the next 3 to 6 months, which makes it easier for you. And it helps you gauge your cash flow. If you know you're going to talk to a person every Tuesday at 3 o'clock for the next 3 months, that's guaranteed payments and money. So I like that part too, that it helps me gauge my cash flow.
Right? Recurring revenue is always a magic number, magic phrase, right?
Yes, I love that word.
So it seems like you can use Visita for all the things in your business. What's the benefit for having one system that does it all?
So it definitely has its benefits because you only have to make that one payment. But I also tell my clients, too, as great as Visita is, and I've never had any problems, you don't want to put all your eggs in a basket, so have a kind of a backup system. So I use Visita, but I also integrate like my Google Forms, my Google Docs, my online store. I kind of incorporate a lot of different things inside of Visita, but it has the capability for you to be able to do that. So I had Visita for 8 years, and it was the primary system that I used for about 5 years. I didn't use any other system but Visita, but then I wanted to kind of, do more digital marketing. I wanted to do webinars. I wanted to do courses and classes and digital products. And so Visita doesn't offer that capability yet, and so I kind of add things in addition to that system. But if you're just starting out, you can use Visita for forever like I did.
Yeah, I mean, listen, no one system to do everything, but I think the good thing about having one system to do the core of your business is that if you have a customer in CRM, you have all the information, you send out email from it so you can see if they respond, you can see the payments in actually this exact same record. Those are really beneficial instead of having all sorts of data siloed throughout your organization.
And you only have to learn one thing, and so I train my employees as soon as they come in on Visita. If you don't know how to do anything else, you know how to work this particular system, which is, like I said, the brains of my business. And so having that one system that does everything is great. And it's, like I said, it's only one payment, so they have different tiers, but you can also gauge your upfront costs, too, for the entire year because you're only using this one particular system. So it works for me.
Yeah. Bianca, what kind of reports do you use to analyze what's going on in your business through Visita?
So I pull they have a revenue report, so I pull the revenue report. They also have your email marketing report, so I can see who clicked it, when did it bounce, when did it deliver, who clicked the link, and so that helps me to really see if they like the content, if they don't like the content, if they pay for what I actually asked them to pay for, how long did it take them to pay for. So it definitely helps you with the analytics and with your cash flow.
You know, I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of small business owners make is that they never look at the results of the activities that they did. And I think with everything being digital, you now can see if something worked or didn't, and then you can make a change. Not checking the reports really doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so we do monthly audits just for my business and also for my team business because I started with a lower account with Visita. Maybe I started with the free one and then I kind of upgraded. But as I got staff, that no longer worked for me. So I had to spend more money because now I'm making more and I have more teams. And so to be able to audit the system to figure out what actually works for you and what you need was also key too. Most people will say, hey, let me get the most expensive one because that's what Bianca used. But I tell my clients, like, you're not where Bianca is at. Like, I grew with this system and you can grow too. So I like the fact that we can check and balance it based on the features that Visita has to offer. Because you might not need all of that, which is okay. Let's start where you are.
Yeah, I remember when I ran a company, it was a mail order business where we actually, inside of 6 years, we actually had to put in 3 different systems as our company grew. And now with SaaS systems like Visita, it's really, you buy as much as you can eat, right? You can actually tier into it. So when you're small, you can start here. But as your company grows, you can get more features and it's okay to spend more money because you're using it.
And that's one of the things that was the deciding factor with me, because when I worked at these different companies, we did do these different conversions. I had to learn these systems. And I don't want to learn a lot of new systems. I want to kind of stick with what works and grow with it as it grows. And Vecita is really good at taking suggestions of things that you need in your business to make it grow. They're really good at taking those suggestions and implementing those. So I've grown with Vecita for the past 8 years. And so I definitely see the growth, and I see myself being with them for the duration of my business because they accommodate the needs that I have.
Well, Bianca, I appreciate you being on the show. If you want to try Vecita for free, that's VCITA, you can go to www.vecita.com and you can use Barry10 for an exclusive discount. Bianca, where can people get in touch with you?
You can follow me on Instagram at the Bianca Experience or at Kate & K Consultant. My Facebook is Kate & K Consultant, and you can go to my website at www.kateandkconsultant.com.
Well, thanks for joining us. This is AM 820 WCPT in Chicago. We'll be right back. There's an important step when it comes to tax season that every small business owner dreads. It's organizing and sending those W-2s to your employees and 1099s to all your independent contractors if you paid them over $600 in the past year. But now there's an easier way to file and deliver those 1099s and W-2s by January 31st, 2020. Introducing eFileForBiz.com, an all-inclusive print, mail, and e-file service for every small business owner. This tool allows you to easily import data from Excel, QuickBooks, and Xero. It's faster to process than ordering paper forms from the IRS and having to fill them out and mail them. eFileForBiz requires no software to be installed. Let eFileForBiz.com process, print, and mail 1099s and W-2s for you. Try it free at www.efileforbiz.com. Tax season is here, and now it's time to file. Blue Summit Supplies has what you need to make filing your 1099s and W-2s quicker, cheaper, and easier than ever. Reduce the stress of tax season by stocking up on IRS-compliant tax forms for your 1099s, W-2s, plus learn how you can save time and money by filing your 2019 taxes online using their simple, safe, and secure electronic filing service. Enjoy free expedited shipping on every order within the continental U.S. Learn more at www.bluesummitsupplies.com/SBR and use the code SBR10 at checkout to save 10% on your order for any paper tax forms and envelopes.
Stick around to get your small business unstuck. More of Small Business Radio with Barry Moles, now on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Well, all small business owners know deep somewhere inside the recesses of their mind that if they're not changing, they're being left behind. But if that's true, why do so many innovations come from outside the industry? And why do people stay stuck in doing the same thing over and over again? Here to help is Nick Webb, who's the author of Innovation Mandate, The Growth Secrets of the Best Organization in the World. As one of the leading innovation strategists and futurists, Nick works closely with Fortune 500 companies throughout the world to help them lead their industries in innovation, strategy, and customer experience design. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Good morning.
Well, the first thing we have to tackle is that you're saying that the Shark Tank syndrome is really a counterproductive strategy to seek fresh ideas. Now, to a lot of Shark Tank fans out there and small business owners, to them, that's blasphemy.
Well, yeah, I understand. I've been a successful inventor for 4 decades. I have over 40 patents, and I've launched technologies in just about every industry in the world. And the problem is that most organizations and most individuals believe that, you come up with an idea, you launch it to the world, the proverbial invent a new mousetrap in the world to beat a path to your door is just simply fantasy. And the fact of the matter is, out of the 3,000 patents that are filed every week, only about 1 or 2% of those will ever provide even a return on the investment for the inventor. And so the good news is that there are systems and methods that allow you to rationally look at innovation in a way that you can have a much higher success rate. But, if people get so hysterical about thinking that the value is in the new idea, and really that's not where the value lives. The value lives in going through the process of vetting an idea, identifying an opportunity or a need or a problem that you serve in a way that provides competitive value. And that's a little more tricky, right? And that's what I talked about in the Innovation Mandate is that, follow a program, follow what the proven innovators do, and you can win at this.
So, but doesn't that what Shark Tank does? Isn't it supposed to validate to make sure that this idea would work? Why do you think it's counterproductive if we want to do innovation using a form like Shark Tank?
Well, when I talk about the Shark Tank now, first of all, realize that it's entertainment, and if you didn't put ridiculous ideas on TV, it wouldn't be right. So
as I always say, reality TV is entertainment first and foremost.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, it's not a good representation of what the real world of innovation looks like. But what corporations have started to do is to do their own Shark Tank program, suggesting that that's how they come up with good ideas. They get everybody together for a rah-rah session. They do this fun Shark Tank event, and now they're an innovative company. And the truth of the matter is the most innovative organizations in the world have made innovation an enterprise priority. And it doesn't matter if you're a small business or if you're a muffler shop or if you're a multi-billion-dollar international company, you really have the same pathway. You have to know the formula that creates innovations that win in the marketplace.
So Nick, what is that formula? How do you make sure that your company is always about innovation and they just don't rest on the laurels of what they've accomplished in the past?
Well, so, most organizations, they assume that innovation lives in the research and development department, and most entrepreneurs feel like they have the right stuff to be the innovator without any adult supervision. And the truth of the matter is that innovation really requires, like new ideas are abundant. I have 5 patentable ideas before breakfast every day. That's not particularly interesting. What's interesting is making the investment into doing the market assessment, really looking at manufacturability. In my book, I talk about the triangular method. And there are 3 things you have to look at. First of all, is there a need, problem, or opportunity? Is there really a need? Is the need widely recognized? Is there a real problem that this technology or product or service really genuinely fixes? So at the top of the triangle is the need, problem, or opportunity. And you have to, the one thing I tell inventors is you have to have a friendly divorce from your idea, because love is the most irrational of all human emotions. And most inventors love their ideas, and they're incapable of seeing any flaws. So you really have to fall out of love with the idea and look at it. Is there a need, problem, or opportunity? If there is, can you create the thing? I could probably sell 1 billion perpetual motion machines if it was not a violation of basic physics, right? So you have to be able to make it at a price that delivers on the need, problem, or opportunity. And lastly, is there a market opportunity? Can you sell it? What does the competitive landscape look like? So if you use the need, build, and sell model of the triangle, it really, really helps you have a balanced analysis as to whether or not it's a good idea or not.
It's so interesting to me. You talk about the perpetual motion machine. I actually worked with a guy to develop a business plan for one of those things, and the business plan was great, but he could never create the product.
Right.
So
there's always that, right?
So as an inventor, I totally agree with you. So many of us are in love with the idea of it, and we don't necessarily want to bring the idea out because then people throw stuff at it, right? But how do you move from idea to execution? Because in my mind, idea is just an idea. It's really the execution that is really the critical part of it. Is it hard for the inventor to do that, or do they have to get other people involved?
You really touched on the most important point of this. Absolutely. The most inventors are under the erroneous assumption that the invention is valuable. The value comes from taking the risk to take the idea to the marketplace. So you get these crazy inventors going around saying, hey, I've just invented this great thing. All you have to do is make it successful. Sorry, it's very much the same as a stock investment. The reward goes to the risk taker, not the inventor. So the people have to, first of all, they have to set down and accept the fact that their idea is useless. And the only way it becomes valuable is when they invest risk into the idea. That's how you get motivated. If you really believe in your idea, take a loan out on your house, which I did on my first product 40 years ago, and go out and take it to market and hope that all hell doesn't break loose. That's what you really have to do. That's where that's the secret of the great innovators. They put the work into looking at the need, the build, and the sell, and then they really put the risk into it. They actually go out and make that product successful. The ideas in of themselves are non-movable objects until they're put into locomotion for risk.
I love that a lot of entrepreneurs and vendors come to me and say, well, Barry, I want you to help me find someone that wants to buy my idea. I say, no one's going to buy your idea. One of the things that's really I've struggled with for a long time is that there's a lot of those one-hit wonders, right? And a couple weeks ago, we had on the show one of the co-founders of Netflix, and he was talking about how they were able to beat Blockbuster. It seems like folks have a hard time making a shift from something that made them successful to something they need to know they have to go in a new direction. How do you make sure you can give up what's been successful already to innovate something new, which may kill your current business?
Well, and we in my consulting firm, we used to do a lot of work in the startup world. And the problem is that what makes for a great startup entrepreneur makes for a really crappy operational president, right? And so one of the biggest problems is the skill set that makes us innovators doesn't necessarily translate into having the operationalization to build an innovation pipeline, right? So I think the biggest problem is that most organizations, most individual inventors, they invent something and then it works out really, really well, but they don't have the skill set to be able to build a maturity model around managing product lifecycle. And I think that entrepreneurs have to go back after they've had a hit and ask themselves those three Drucker navigating questions is, what is my business? Who are my customers? And what are my customers' value? Because from that perspective, you can continue to innovate from that initial innovation. And that's what helps keep them on a rail.
So, Nick, what are some companies out there that you think that does this particularly well and some that you feel that really fall short of it?
Well, I think, one of the things that's very interesting is the best innovations that we're going to see in the next 5 years are not bright, shiny objects. These are new economic models. And there are new ways in which companies deliver exquisite customer experiences because that's ground zero. I really like Dutch Brothers Coffee, for an example. Dutch Brothers Coffee sort of reinvented an incredibly saturated coffee space. And if there is a Starbucks on one side of the road and a Dutch Brothers on the other side, you'll see a line around the block of people buying essentially the same product. But what they did is invented a different and better and more meaningful way to engage customers. So there is an example of how you can do that. Companies like Smile Direct Club, I mean, they basically have destroyed the orthodontics marketplace by making braces affordable and accessible to a wide range of potential customers that couldn't have done it before. Incredible innovators. Opternative, a new solution where you can actually get refracted. In other words, get your eyes checked using your smartphone and get your contact lens in about the time that it takes you to beg your optometrist to make an appointment. The list goes on. And these are where the innovations that are happening that I'm excited about. New economic models, new ways in which we deliver exquisite customer experiences. That's where the wealth is going to be created. And I think that's where some of the best startup opportunities are.
Let me say that because I really believe that folks really no longer want to just buy your stuff, right? They really want to have an outstanding experience because they can get stuff anywhere.
Well, absolutely. I wrote a book that's still, I believe, a bestseller called What Customers Crave. And in that book, I was really surprised to find that, if you take a look at where all of the value is being created in the coolest companies on the planet, it's really not about the technology. It's all about the way in which they deliver amazing customer experiences. We're in the friction-free economy, the experience economy, and it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you can compete on the customer experience level, you can do incredible things in terms of driving sustainable growth and profitability.
You can talk about in the book smart versus stupid innovation. What's the difference? Can you give us some examples? I know I'd rather do smart innovation, but how do I make sure I don't do stupid innovation?
Right. Well, I think that the problem is that, most people are not targeting, true layered value to the customer. And they focus on the bright, shiny object. They're inventing something. It's got a left-hand turn signal. It's got a kickstand. It's got a, AI connection and all this kind of stuff. But meanwhile, the customer's yawning. So it's only a good innovation to the extent people love it. It's got to go well above the baseline level of expectation today in a time of hyper competition to be exquisite. That's smart innovation. Stupid innovation is inventing at the baseline. It's just the vanilla stuff that everybody else has. You really got to be brave and bold today because disruption means that innovation is moving much quicker than it ever has. And the nature of innovations have become very, very big. There are three drivers that are driving all of this. One is hyper-consumerization. We've been trained by Apple and by Nordstrom's and by Dutch Brothers and by Amazon that experiences should be fast and beautiful. And because of that, we have to really target customer experience. I think the other issue is connection architecture. If something can be connected, it will be connected. And when it's connected, it'll deliver far better value. And lastly, the biggest opportunities, I think, for innovators today is to find ways to invent new models, new ways of delivering value that completely sidesteps everybody else. Companies like Lemonade that have totally changed the way in which people access renter's insurance, for an example. There's just, Carvana, buying your car from a vending machine. The list goes on and on and on. New economic models, new ways in which we leverage connection architecture and exquisite customer experiences. That's ground zero for innovation right now.
The last question I wanted to ask you, Nick, was really, you brought up Apple. Some people would say that Apple really has not innovated much over the years. And then, other people are amazed by the new $249 AirPods. They go, wow, this really is amazing. What do you think?
Well, it's easy to say that. I think that the thing I love, there are many things I love about Apple. I know that they've been overused as an example, but what was statistically the number one requested item on people's Christmas list in 2019? The answer, the AirPod Pro.
Wow.
Right? So does that mean they're not innovative? I don't know. It seems to me like they're disciplined innovators. One of the things that's frustrating with me is I have 9 iPhones. I have every Apple thing. I have stacks of Apple. I go into their store and there's nothing new to buy. Just give me something else I can own from you guys. There's just nothing there, right? So what they realize is, hey, let's build cool stuff, like really cool stuff. And until we know it's cool, let's not do it. Remember that Apple is really, really great because they were experts at developing the most beautiful UX. In other words, they went from, you're probably not old enough to remember DOS, but I
remember DOS, of course. I worked for IBM for 10 years.
Okay, well, think about, having to write a string of code to ask your word processor to print something. It's like, what is that, right? So, iconery, using Symbiology with a clickable mouse as a way to do complex computer function is emblematic of the entire world view of Apple. Apple wants everything to be, as my 13-year-old daughter would say, delicious. They want it to be beautiful and exquisite and simple and clean. And they do that not just in the actual technologies they build, they do it in their stores. Most people don't realize this, but when you walk into an Apple store, they politely probe you. They ask you questions that seem benign, but what they're trying to understand is, what is your node or your persona? The minute they figure that out, they put you on a pre-invented journey. When I go in there, they know that I'm a transactionalist from a quick dialogue with me. They go, Nick, you know what you want. You just want to get it and get out of here. So here's that pathway for you. Download a free app, scan whatever you want on the wall, and leave. Now, my wife is a nurturing node type, so they identify that, and they go, oh, we know who you are. You're the one that wants to be engaged and to spend some time embraced in the technology. So they take her over to a table, and they go on Pinterest, and they Photoshop some pictures of the family, and she leaves with boxes and boxes of Apple things. That is amazing. A lot of people go, oh, every time I go in the Apple store, there's more Apple employees than there are people in there. Exactly, because they know as part of their user experience is waiting is killing. They understand what the greatest companies in the world know, and that is one simple rule: never make people wait to take their money. And Apple understands it, and people get it, and they love it. They're never waiting to spend lots of money on Apple technology. That's why they're great. It's not the technology. It's their ability to deliver beautiful human experiences.
Wow, and I just thought that whenever I went into an Apple store, it was just a good time. But now I realize there's really something to it. So, Nick, thanks so much for being on the show. Where can people get in touch with you, get more information about the work you're doing in innovation?
Sure. So for my speaking business, it's simply nickwebb with 2Bs.com. And then, of course, The Innovation Mandate, and for that matter, What Customers Crave, is both best-selling books available on Amazon. And regarding consulting, the work I do in that space, Go Leader Logic on the innovation side.
And thanks for joining us this week's radio show. I want to thank our sponsors, Nextiva, the all-in-one communications platform for your small business. I also want to thank LinkedIn, the place to generate leads, drive traffic, and build your brand awareness. For a free $100 credit to launch your campaign, go to www.linkedin.com/SBR. The show is also brought to you by eFile4Biz, the easiest way to process, print, mail, and file your 1099s and W-2s for your business. Go to www.efile4biz.com. We're also sponsored by vCita, all you need to run your business in one software. Try for free at www.vcita.com. That's VCITA.com, and use Barry10 for an exclusive discount. We're also supported by Blue Summit Supplies. Get your W-2s and 1099 tax forms that your business is required to file sale by January 31st at www.bluesummitSupplies/SBR. Use SBR10 at checkout to save 10% off your order. I also want to thank our incredible staff, our booking producer, Sarah Schafrin, our in-studio producer, Lady B, our marketing manager, Courtney Gilchrist. If you are serious about being more successful this year, it's a brand new year and a brand new decade. You got to give me a call, 773-837-8250, or email me at barry@moltz.com. Remember, love everyone, trust a few, and paddle your own canoe. Have a profitable and passionate week.
You can find Barry Moltz on the web at barrymoltz.com, or more episodes of Small Business Radio at smallbizradioshow.com.